wanted to give our next top tip. And this one was that you've written a great blog, which will be on the Cheer Charge page, and we'll put a link to it. So just tell us your thoughts about flexibility and planning and training.
Yeah, I said to you, didn't I, a couple of weeks ago, I'd love to do this, do an episode about flexibility. And when I talk about flexibility, I'm not talking about Jane Fonda bendy legs. Well, it could be. Yeah. Wish I was more flexible in my hamstrings, especially, but more about flexibility in your training plan, in your races, in life. The reason I started talking about this was about 10 days ago. I had my long run to do, and I try and do my long run during the weeks because the weekends are so busy with the kids, but I hadn't been able to do it. And so it got to Sunday, still hadn't done my long run. And it's sort of a staple ingredient, I find, to a training plan is you have your tempo run or whatever, a session a week, plus the long run. And I do like to do a long run a week, whatever that long run looks like in your training plan. It might just be 60 minutes, but sort of focused long run where I can go out with a pack on and fuel and just sort of remind myself that I'm an ultra runner. And it got to the Sunday and the kids had all sorts of things. There were birthday parties and activities and my husband was working. It was all busy. I was like, I wanted to get 17 miles done. How am I going to do this? So I ended up doing it in sort of 3 parts. I had to get dogs out as well. So I ended up doing it sort of some miles in the morning with the dogs. Then while the kids had a cartoon after lunch, I went on the treadmill and did some more boring facial collapse miles. And then when my husband finished work, I went out again in the evening to finish off the long run. And I think I even started the evening session on the treadmill while he was still working. Got 5 miles done. And then I was like, right, I've only got 4 more to do on the road. It sounds balmy when I talk about it, but I mentally, for me, I wanted to get that long run done and I did it. But at the end of the day, I was a bit disappointed in myself because I felt like, was that a bit cheating? Because I wasn't out for 3 hours. I sort of broke it down. So in some ways it's easier because you're not out there plowing through for 3 hours. And then I was like, Eddie, give yourself a break. You've just managed to fit in 17 miles in a day when you were looking after the kids. You had everything going on. You did all that and you put 17 miles in. And though it wasn't the long run and perhaps the training was a bit different because, you were probably ran the miles faster than if I'd done 17 miles off the bat, but you still got it done and you should still tick that box that, yeah, you had that many miles in your legs. And does it really matter if you did how you did it? So I sort of then got thinking, and I think I messaged you going, I think it'd be really good right now as well, especially to talk about being flexible in our training and what that means to us, what that looks like, and how that also helps us in ultra races as well, that when things go wrong or when splits aren't there, when we're a bit slower than we planned, or if our stomach goes, how we deal with that and how that looks like, and how we shouldn't see change as all the jets are going overhead. Can you hear that?
Yeah. Impressive.
We shouldn't see change or adaptability as a weakness. We should actually see it as a strength and how it can help us as ultra runners. Actually, if we change our plan, it is a sign of strength and it's a sign of fitness and commitment to a long-term plan. And so, now I'm a busy mum. I've got, lots of things going on. I could fit in lots in my day, and being flexible in my training plan is absolutely key to me staying injury-free, to being healthy, to being happy. And I really struggled after my 3rd baby. I came back and I raced for England within 8 months. And I was rigid to that training plan. And but I don't think that was very long-term. I don't think that was a great idea because I raced to get back to fitness. I plowed through those miles. But I didn't think, what's going to happen a year on down the line if you haven't spent your time building back up, because I was so focused on that goal. I'm really happy I did it. I wouldn't change it anyway, but I learned from it. And now definitely being flexible in that training plan and not seeing it as like, if I go out, if I miss a session, that the whole world is going to crumble and I'm going to now not finish the race because I didn't get that easy 45 minutes in. Or if I go out and do a session and I'm terrible and I'm not hitting the paces because I'm tired, do I rethink the session or do I just keep plowing on and see what happens? And I talk a bit about just heading out for the warm-up sometimes, and you just head out for the warm-up And if you don't feel like, the body's not there, especially as we get a little bit older, and we're like, no, I need an extra day. I follow Ian Sharman on Strava, who's over in America, and he used to be he set up the Centurion Coaching with James, who I work for as well, and he's brilliant. If you want to follow someone, and he'll often go out for sessions and then put, no, it wasn't there, I'm going to do it again tomorrow, or aborted long run, because he is really flexible in his training. And I think that is real kudos to an athlete who's thinking long term, who's thinking sustainability. And I think if you can be like that in your training plan, when it comes to a race, you can then be as well kind to yourself if things don't go wrong. You're used to thinking on your feet, you're used to troubleshooting ahead, thinking what's going to happen. And I talk a bit in the blog about how that reflects into life as a parent, looking ahead. This is going to be a disaster happening, abort the mission, all sorts of stuff like that. So I just wanted to kind of touch base with people and be like, especially at the moment, being flexible and looking after yourselves and looking after each other is going to be key. But perhaps the next couple of years as life as an athlete and life racing is really different. And I know for people who are rigidly, I coach a lot of people who love their training plan and they will do what is written on the sheet, and if it goes wrong, it's a disaster, and it takes days for us to talk it through. And so I'm always trying to educate them, this isn't a disaster, we're learning from it and we're moving forward. But it's kind of easy for me to say now, because that's where I am now, and I've never raced rigidly to a plan. I often Debs and I talked about our South Downs Way strategy yesterday, which is top secret, obviously, John. But she does all the splits between all the checkpoints and stuff, and I just go with it. I don't even really have a watch on. I turn my watch on for the Strava kudos at the end, but I won't look at my watch throughout the race. So, but I know you're a little bit more, perhaps, a bit more focused. I don't want to say rigid, focused on your plan and on your racing splits. So do you find that hard to change if things go wrong, or what's your experience?
Definitely. I think it was really funny. I'm smiling away sort of listening to that, because I know that's something I need to learn, and I think I am learning. But I would say when I started ultra running, I love a plan. I'm like Debs. I have my splits, and I know exactly. And I think when I was running, probably my best about 10 years ago when I was 50, when I did a couple of sub 20 West Highland Ways, and I could almost tell my support team exactly to the minute where I was going to reach each checkpoint. And I had my training was very much, I set it out 5 sessions a week. This is what I was going to do. I haven't got, our kids are all grown up and left now, so we haven't got the same responsibility, so I can plan things out. So I would say I was very rigid, and probably so much so that if I had a niggle or I was tired, I just plowed on. And I have tried to be a bit more sensible, particularly as I get older. I've got to respect the fact that if I go for a 20-mile run, I need to be careful the next day or two, because that's when I'm going to get probably an injury. So I'd like to think I'm a bit more flexible now. But I would say in my racing, I said, for example, the West Highland Way, I've got splits every 2 or 3 miles for the whole route. And I love it. And I have these little mini splits. And so all I have to do is run for 35 minutes to the next one. And then I've got 40 minutes to the next one. And when it's working well, it's brilliant, because it's so positive, and I get there and I'm a minute ahead of my schedule, and then the miles go away, and it's brilliant. What is hard for me, and what has been hard for me, is when it's gone wrong. There was one West Highland Way where I was aiming for sub 20 again, and I ended up 22 and a half hours. I still turned it round in the end, but I had a really bad time. And I remember coming into Bridge of Orkney, and I was about 45 minutes down on my schedule, and it was starting to play with my head. And it was the year that England played in the World Cup, and I'd watched the game the night before. And Sven-Göran Eriksson was the manager. We were 0-0. I've forgotten who we were playing now. I think Colombia or somewhere. And he didn't change anything. He just kept the same team. And I remember thinking, come on, you've got to bring some subs on, change things around. And I thought about that as I came into Bridge of Orkney. And my support team said, right, John, you need to have a longer stop here. You need to do something different. So I had a hot chocolate, I had some ham, I ate something which I've never eaten before in a race, and then I did it. Things turned round, and that was a big lesson for me, because I'd always thought I would never ever try anything on a race that I've not done in training or in practice. But I just needed to do something, because it was going downhill, and I was able to turn it round. So I'd like to think that I am learning. It's taken me a long time. Yeah.
I think the thing about flexibility is it's not skiving off. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to do that. It's just always, and I will stick to my training plan. Like I said, I've got those 17 miles to do. I want to do them. The goal will always be there. It's just the path that you get there might be a bit different, and it's okay. That straight path, you see all those graphs, don't you, with like what you imagine ultra running to be, and then it's all squiggly. Yeah. And I think if your path is squiggly at the moment, that's a very scientific word, squiggly, that's fine, and to stick with it, and just to keep your eyes focused on where you're going. And it might be that you go around the corners, you go backwards, you have a huge leap forward, you do really well, and then the next week it's not so well. But you keep focused on that end goal all the time. It's just how we get there might look a bit different, and I think that's what I was trying to say in the blog, that there's no right way, there's no wrong way, and it's just really about being listening to your body all the time. So yeah, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts about that too.
Just gonna say one more thing. I think that idea of, if you have a plan and then you don't do it, you feel as though you're skiving. That was a good word. And I think one of the things that I do now a bit more is I make my plan a little bit more flexible. Yeah. So that instead of saying that on a Wednesday, I'm going to run 10 miles, I might just put on the plan, run, an off-road run.
Yeah.
And then, so if I only end up doing 5 rather than 10, I don't feel as though I've skived. And it could just be a mental thing, but that makes a difference to me, because I think if I've said I'm going to run 10 miles and I only run 7, I feel as though I've skived, I've missed out. So I've tried to be a bit kinder to myself. And that's one of the words that you've used a few times in these chats. And so that if I don't do 10, then I don't feel so bad. And I think it's trying to get that little bit of flexibility in my training. So there'll be some things in my week that will be a bit more maybe rigid,
non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Yeah. Whereas there's other runs which, if I'm, I've had a long day at work, like at the moment, I'm doing a lot more delivery. We normally coordinate a lot more, but on a Monday, Tuesday, I'm cycling all day with groups out of kids. Thursday, I'm on my feet all day doing orienteering of things. So when I ran last night after my full day of work, I was struggling, and I'd hoped I was going to do 6 or 7, and I ended up doing 5. And when I ran with Katrina, and we just chatted the whole way around and just did an easier run. And I think that was the right thing to do, because if I'd ploughed on to try and do maybe a tempo 6-mile run, it would have, I was tired starting off. So yeah, that flexibility. So as you said, we'd like to hear what other people think. These are some of our thoughts, and I would recommend that you go and read the blog that Eddie has written. It's really, really good. And so please have a look at that, and I'll put the links on the notes. But we do want to know what other people think. So again, we've got prizes from Cheer Charge. We've got another 20 flapjacks to give out. And so we've given our first 2 prizes over the last 2 weeks. So there's another one for this one. And so what sort of things are we looking for, Eddie, that we'd like to hear from people about this subject?
Well, I love hearing about people's personal experiences. So I'll pop a post on Facebook about a time when I've been flexible in my training and the result of it, if that's good or bad. But I'd really like to hear maybe during a training plan or a training cycle, or in a race when things haven't gone as well as planned, or you've reached. I talk a bit about in the blog about seeing ahead to see the barriers, and you've changed your training, or you've changed your perhaps your goal during the race, and what the outcome of that has been, good or bad, and again, maybe what you've learned from that as well. Because if you then scroll down and read people's comments, there's such a wealth of knowledge and experience. Perhaps newbies to ultra running will look through that and go, God, there's all these people in the same boat, and everybody sort of working experiencing the same things, and getting stronger from them. So yeah, perhaps, you know, something in training that you've changed and has been good, and you've learned from it and come away as a better runner. So yeah, I'll pop a post on Facebook today, and look forward to hearing people's thoughts and wise words. It's the wise words that we
the
love.
wise words. Excellent. And the closing date for that will be 5:00 on Thursday, the 10th of September. So people have got just under a week to get their thoughts in.